Tonight, marking 1 year since the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Mr. Putin, we will stand with Ukraine as long as it takes, as much as it takes.
Toronto, one of hundreds of cities around the world holding a rally today in solidarity with the people of Ukraine, who continue to show great resolve in the face of incredible odds. Plus,
it's going to be even more inconvenient. Buses, you're packed like sardines.
Commuters who rely on the 501 Queen streetcar will soon have to line up for the shuttle bus instead, a change that's expected to last for 20 months. And
it's just like a slap in the face.
A woman with visual impairment is speaking out about the barriers she faced on a recent flight to Toronto, calling her experience degrading and demoralizing. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Much of the world marking a somber anniversary today. It was 1 year ago that Russia invaded Ukraine. At the time, it was widely feared the country would fall within weeks, even days. But that didn't happen, with Ukrainians having shown incredible resilience in the face of all odds.
It was a year of endurance, a year of compassion, a year of bravery, a year of pain, a year of hope, a year of perseverance, a year of unity, a year of invincibility.
Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky pledged to push for victory by the end of this year. There were commemorations across Ukraine and around the world. Since the invasion, Ukraine has gained wide-ranging support from the European Union and NATO. Humanitarian and military aid has poured in, while Russia has been hit with accusations of war crimes and ever-tightening economic sanctions. Here in Toronto, the anniversary was marked at City Hall with a flag-raising ceremony this morning.
This illegal invasion on a sovereign and independent country is an affront to democracy everywhere, and we will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes and until this war ends.
Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey was joined by the Consul General of Ukraine in Toronto, as well as the head of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, to raise Ukraine's flag. Tonight, the Toronto sign in Nathan Phillips Square is lit with blue and yellow in a further show of support for the country. And Nathan Phillips Square is where people in Toronto marched to tonight as part of a massive rally to mark the 1 year anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Rideau Canal was there.
Thousands of people gathered at Yonge and Dundas Square to show their support for Ukraine, even those from the country that invaded it.
I am not Ukraine, I am Russian. My heart stays with Ukraine, not with my previous country.
Rallies were held all over the world, including 50 Canadian cities, giving people a chance to reflect on a war that persists 1 year on.
Reflect on the personal sacrifice of all the men and women who are fighting on the front lines. I'm reflecting, and especially reflecting, on all of the mothers who had to make this painful decision. Do I stay or do I go, so I can go out there and protect my families, make sure that my children are safe.
The crowd marched down Yonge Street to Nathan Phillips Square, where the Prime Minister was waiting to address them, and some protesters were waiting for him.
This is a night to celebrate Ukraine.
One woman tried to calm a protester down, but had racist comments yelled in her face.
Canadian support for Ukraine is truly inspiring. I want to thank you, Father Bogdan Choli, for your prayer, and of course to the Babanok Dance Ensemble. Hey, sir, I think Ukrainians can tell you a little bit about freedom and liberty, so why don't you settle down?
Now, Justin Trudeau announced today that Canada is pledging 5,000 rounds of ammunition, 1 armored recovery vehicle, and 4 Leopard 2 tanks, doubling down what Canada pledged earlier this year. In addition, 200 sanctions on individuals and entities, and $32 million to battle nuclear arms and demining the Ukrainian fields.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre also pledged his party's support for Ukraine, as well as Premier Doug Ford.
People of Ontario stand with the people of Ukraine, today and every day.
Roughly 60,000 Ukrainians have come to Ontario since the war began and have been provided some housing and job support. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Investigators with York Police have made another arrest in the attack on Elnaz HatchtoMary.
We do believe that there may be more people involved in the planning or aiding or assisting in this brutal attack that took place.
The 37-year-old HatchtoMary has been missing since being abducted from a Wasaga Beach home in January of last year. Now, about a month before that, she was violently attacked by a group of people in an underground parking garage in Richmond Hill. York police saying they have now arrested a fourth man, 25-year-old Harshpreet Sikong, in connection with that attack. He's facing charges of aggravated assault and conspiracy to commit an indictable offense. 3 other men have already been charged in connection with that attack, including 35-year-old Mohammed Lilo, who is HatchtoMary's ex-boyfriend. He has also been charged in her abduction. A $100,000 reward is being offered for information on HatchtoMary's disappearance. Halton police have identified 2 men wanted in connection with a carjacking in Milton earlier this week. 38-year-old Sean Moore and 37-year-old Gary Walker, both of Brampton, are wanted on multiple counts, including robbery. The men are alleged to be responsible for a violent carjacking, 2 hit and runs, stealing gas, and driving through a playground where children were playing on Tuesday. No one was seriously injured. Police say if you see the suspects, call police immediately and do not approach them. A judge has found Charles Mustard guilty of second-degree murder in the 1993 stabbing death of Toronto resident Barbara Brodkin. The 63-year-old Mustard was arrested in 2018, 25 years after Brodkin's death. Brodkin was 41 when she was found dead in her Belleisle Street apartment in March of 1993. Police said at the time that cash and cannabis were missing from her residence and that Brodkin may have been the victim of a robbery. 25 years later, DNA evidence gathered at the murder scene linked Mustard to the crime. Mustard's lawyer says his client will consider appealing the verdict. A sentencing hearing is set for mid-March. Well, if you're a commuter who relies on the 501 Queen streetcar, you'll want to listen up. Some big changes are coming. The streetcar is set to be taken out of service beginning in early May and replaced by shuttle buses. Now, it's a change that could last for 20 months, all in order to accommodate work on to build the new Ontario line. Greg Ross has the details.
The potential of losing streetcar service on Queen Street West for the better part of 2 years isn't sitting well with many TTC riders.
Buses, you're packed like sardines, and I don't know, it's just inconvenient for a lot of people who rely on TTC, not just me, but people who aren't really as able to get around or drive in general.
I think it will cause a little bit of stress for some people.
Business owners are worried about the potential impact that it could have on their bottom line.
There's a lot of people traveling here. Definitely a lot of reliance in this neighborhood on the walk-by traffic and public transportation, and not having streetcars for 2 years is definitely just another frustration in trying to do business in Toronto's busiest neighborhood.
Wesley Barber is part owner of Brashen Beverly Restaurant. He thinks it might push people to look at other options.
I'm certain that there will be a lot of people that say, we'll choose another area that's easier to get to.
Barber says it's only going to get worse once construction on the Ontario line finally does get underway. He likens it to the problems on Eglinton Avenue during construction of the LRT there, which after more than a decade still isn't complete.
Some of my favorite places are no longer, and hopefully we don't see the same thing happening down here on Queen Street West. We can only hope that whoever's listening, that there's a good compensation package for businesses affected in the area.
I did reach out to the TTC, Metrolinx, and the city. They're not saying very much about this at this time, but in a statement from a spokesperson from the TTC, they did tell me that this work would still be several months away and that they will advise customers well in advance of any construction starting. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's go to Colette Kennedy now with a first check on your forecast. And Colette, really nice to see so much sunshine earlier today. Helped a bit with the cold, though it was still pretty frigid.
Was it ever? I mean, we started from -10 and we had a wind chill at one point this morning, -21. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And then of course, as the day got going, it felt a little better if you got into that sunshine. But overnight tonight, the temperature's even cooler into the GTA, but the winds are going to be lighter. So the wind chills actually end up benefiting us, meaning not as cold as what they were this morning. This is 6 a.m. tomorrow morning and some of the readings that we'll be seeing. Now, as we push forward into this weekend, in terms of our sky conditions, we are going to be seeing mostly cloudy conditions overnight tonight and a weak system that is pushing through for Saturday. And with that, we're going to see scattered flurries, mostly for the first part of the day, but still some lingering into the afternoon. And in terms of what we'll get out of this, not very much. A little later in the show, I'll show you some details on that. But there you are, feeling like minus 18. Tomorrow's high, though, up to minus 3.
Thanks so much, Colette. The Ontario government is doubling the number of long-term care home inspectors across the province. In an announcement today, the Minister of Long-Term Care says the province has hired close to 200 inspection staff.
Simply put it, more inspectors means more inspections, allowing us to do a better job of holding homes accountable, keeping residents safe, and improving the care residents receive.
The hiring of 193 new long-term care inspection staff includes 156 inspectors. The province says the changes are part of a 3-year, $72 million investment. The additional staff means the province will now exceed its goal of one inspector for every 2 homes in Ontario. The Ford government says this will make for stronger enforcement in a sector devastated by the COVID pandemic. A visually impaired woman is sharing about the barriers she faced on an Air Canada flight to Toronto, calling out what she says is the systemic discrimination that people with disabilities face when they fly. Georgia Pike says she recently had a bad experience when flying into Pearson from Arizona. As Ryan Patrick Jones reports, she wants to see more training for airline and airport staff.
Georgia Pike's seeing eye dog Maggie is a great guide, but to get from an airport check-in desk to the departure gate, she needs someone to follow. On a recent trip from Phoenix, her journey was anything but straightforward.
I'm a blind person trying to get from the airport to my home, and the amount of barriers that I encounter is degrading and demoralizing.
Pike says she informed Air Canada staff several times that she needed an escort, but instead of one person walking her through security to the gate, she was handed off from employee to employee and forced to wait multiple times. She says it took an hour and a half to get to the gate.
I don't think it's fair for disabled people to have to wait until the last minute to be able to be taken through the paces and put on a plane.
After being the last to deplane in Toronto, she waited again with a group of people in wheelchairs. That's when she alleges an airline supervisor said it would be faster if people, quote, just walked. Later, she says a security guard told her no taxi would take her if her dog wasn't in a cage, forcing her to explain that Maggie is a service animal.
It's just like a slap in the face where it's like I've worked so hard to get this dog that is well trained, that is clearly guiding me, and yet I'm constantly being questioned.
Blind advocate Marcia Yale says experiences like this are all too common.
We shouldn't have to jump through hoops to get the same equal treatment. I mean, we are paying the same price.
Air Canada says it's reviewing the matter, adding the airline is committed to providing accessible transportation for all customers who require assistance. A spokesperson for the Canadian Transportation Agency tells CBC it receives between 100 and 200 accessibility-related complaints each year.
I should say that I can't actually speak about any specific case, but I will say that the experience in question is being looked into by the agency's enforcement team.
Hello, darling.
Pike says she just wants to be treated fairly.
People need training, and there needs to be follow-through, and there just needs to be education all around.
Ryan Patrick Jones, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. A cleanup event was held today at a Mississauga temple that was recently the subject of hate-motivated vandalism.
Why are they desecrating our walls with their problems? This is not the place to do this. It is certainly bringing tremendous pain, and it's also projecting hate to the Hindu community. I don't know who they are, but they are projecting their hate to the Hindu community. I would like to know why.
Community members were at Ram Mandir Temple today scrubbing away anti-Hindu graffiti. This comes after a rash of graffiti was found at temples in the Peel region. This latest graffiti was found scrawled on the Mississauga temple last week. Only a few weeks before that, another temple was defaced in Brampton. Earlier this week, Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown joining faith leaders at City Hall to condemn the incidents. Returning to our top story now and the one-year anniversary of the war in Ukraine. Many Ukrainians left their country and their loved ones in the past year. This next story is about a Canadian family who took in a Ukrainian teenager. As Ali Chiasson reports, they gave him a roof over his head, but he helps to make it a home.
I remember looking over at Jay and saying, we need to do something.
Look at the stars.
1 year ago, one Collingwood family with a spare bedroom sprung into action. Sarah Johnston connected with a Ukrainian aid group online.
They said, we actually have someone that we think that would be a perfect fit for your family.
I came along.
The only thing is, he is under 18, and you would have to become his legal guardians.
Kirill's mother wanted to get him out of the country before his 18th birthday to avoid conscription, while she stayed behind to fight in the war.
We met Kirill on FaceTime, and I remember him being very nervous, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. And I remember him saying, you know, this is just like a dream to me. Like a couple months ago, I was just playing in the streets with my friends, and now I don't know where I'm going to live. And when you see that on video and you have that person in front of you, you have to help them. You want to help them.
He taught me how to ski.
Turns out the 6'5" Ukrainian teenager is a natural on the slopes. And now a regular at the rink.
Hockey is obviously a Canadian sport, so it was like different for me. I couldn't understand how to play this, but he taught me really fast.
He became part of the family really fast.
We have a 7-year-old son, and he really looks up to Kirill. And, well, Kirill does this, well, now Hunter wants to do that too. He's turned into a really fantastic role model.
My favorite team in the baseball is Blue Jays. In the hockey, it's Toronto Maple Leafs.
He has only been here for 7 months, and he already talks like a Canadian teen.
I don't know, it was summer, I think. We went to Blue Jays game, and yeah, it was amazing, but unfortunately they lost. But they got smoked, but...
Kirill talks to his mother every day. She tries to keep their phone calls light, wanting to hear more about her son's schooling and all the fun he's having.
She's kind of happy for me that I'm here and I'm found the family, and she's very happy that I'm in a safe place.
But the realities of war slipped into a text message recently. Mother to mother.
We were driving home, and I get a message from her, and all it said was, I'm really scared, please take care of my son. It's definitely changed me as a mother, knowing that, you know, she really did sacrifice so much. Yeah, and she continues to.
It's hard to predict what would happen because Russia is still fighting for our land. So I just want to have a peace.
Thankfully, his found family can provide him a semblance of peace in the meantime, while they all hope for a brighter future.
Yes, it's a tough situation now, but I think one day his family will reunite. His mom will see him thrive in Canada, and then they can reunite in a much happier place.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Collingwood. Let's go back to Colette now with a look at your long-range forecast. And Colette, you mentioned some flurries tomorrow. Nothing significant, though.
Yeah, nothing too significant, but we do have something in our sights in terms of what's going to be happening with the next system that comes in that will really have an impact. So tomorrow it's more of a trace to a few centimeters, and I'll show you more broadly that in a moment. Temperatures are going to be rising on Sunday, so we'll get daytime highs in many cases, and in Toronto, above freezing. We'll see that obviously in Windsor as well before. Next system, though, Monday in the afternoon hours, and it's looking like kind of a wintry mix. So starting as some snow, mixing with ice pellets, changing over to rain close to the lakeshore, and then back to snowfall. Yeah, again, a bit of everything coming our way. For tomorrow, this is that weaker system that is moving through, and as it does, widespread flurries that we'll be seeing. A lot of cloud cover on our Saturday as well, not the sun that we had for today. They become a little more isolated into the afternoon hours, however, and then we do get some partial clearing overnight Saturday into Sunday. That will be nice. Certainly we're seeing some of that sun along the north shore of Lake Erie back into southwestern Ontario, and this is 8 a.m. on Sunday. As you watch as I play this forward, we'll see more cloud erosion and more sun poking through. Can't rule out of the isolated flurry though, even into Sunday, so I've kept that in there, but much more isolated than what we'll be seeing on Saturday. And there you are, a few areas. Yes, there's a potential to pick up a couple of centimeters into the Ottawa Valley, maybe double that, but still less than 5. So nothing too significant out of Saturday in terms of nothing that you're really going to be having to sit there or spend a lot of time shoveling. We've got enough of that to go around from the last storm. Tomorrow's daytime high, -3, and then -6 Saturday night into Sunday. So the temperature's coming up, and boy, you'll feel it into Sunday when we get that daytime high above freezing, up to 2 degrees. Now, this is the next system moving in on Monday. We'll watch for that and the wintry mix, and we'll have more details, obviously, on that as it gets a little bit closer in time, Kelda.
Thanks so much. It's official, Ottawa's Rideau Canal will not open this season for skating. The National Capital Commission says despite its best efforts, the ice remains unsafe, something it is chalking up to the effects of climate change. This winter has been one of the warmest in decades in Ottawa. The nearly 8-kilometer-long route first opened for skating back in 1971. And this will be the first time since then that the public won't be allowed to take to the ice. And finally tonight, a little bear is fascinating scientists in Siberia. This remarkable carcass was discovered buried deep in the Siberian permafrost. It's a small female bear, or some might say an icy Ursa. It's perfectly preserved and it's 3,500 years old. Scientists calling it a one-of-a-kind find, saying for the first time they can study an ancient bear's brain and internal organs. And that is our show for you tonight and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. Shannon Martin has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.